Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. I hope most of the people are from India, and if they are from outside, then maybe good afternoon and good evening. So, today, this topic we thought like we will talk about different topics in different webinars, and this is one of the topic which is like currently getting boom, and people are talking about how we can go into this product security or like I'm from different domains. Let's say I'm from pen testing domain, I'm from SOC, or I have given some of those 5 or 10 years of experience in different domains. Can I move to this product security? So, this session won't cover exactly the career roadmap, but this will tell you exactly like how this kind of product security program runs. So, you will know exactly like when you are coming into this product security domain, what are the things you have to do. So, how the shift left approach matters, and what are the different steps that we take, right? So we start, let's say, from discovering the assets, and then we tag all those things. What are the problems we face? Like, so all these things, I and Maulik will try to cover. So Maulik will lead the session, anyways. And so we will first introduce ourselves before starting the topic. Next slide, Maulik. Yeah. So it's about me. I have more than 15 years of experience into different domains. Although I started from software development and moved to security engineering, and then have led application and cloud security team in past. I was head of security in LiveSite, and then was a security partner at Tesco as well. Even I have trained many people over threat modeling, cloud security, and core application security. You can see my link over this GitHub or LinkedIn. So my title is, my handle is Justice CS. So whenever you search Justice CS, you will find lots of social medias. But these are the two platforms where I'm very active. So I'm just giving that. So this is the very brief intro about me. Now Maulik will introduce himself. But before that, let me tell something about him. Is like, he's a very good chap, and we are I think like from last 1 or 2 years we are in constant touch, and I have seen how he grew up from pen testing side, and then coming back to this product security side. He has worked in phone pay, EY. He has trained more than 100 people over these domains, and he's also one of the mentor of our group. So he's also good at security architecture and threat modeling side. I think that brief should be enough for me and about our main speaker, Maulik. So there is a LinkedIn and again his GitHub profile. So yeah, over to you, Maulik.
Uh, sure, Sanjeev. Thank you so much for your kind introduction. Before we start with the actual session, let us also try to understand the agenda and why are we here today. So let us understand the target audience, and let us also understand what problem statement that target audience is having. So this session is mostly focused on how do you implement a proper product security program in your own company if you are part of a early stage startup or a small startup, and let's assume that startup is similar to, let's say, PayPal, or similar to Robinhood, which is a stock trading application. So let's say you are a part of a small product company, which is a B2C product company, such as, let's say, PayPal or Robinhood trading app, or all of that. Or your company is a B2C product company, such as when you log into your G Suite in your own company, you would have certain Google apps. Some could be charting applications, some could be, insurance applications and all of that. So ultimately, those are also user facing or consumer facing applications. And some businesses are business to merchant. For example, there is a company called Dave, which is a neo banking kind of an application, mobile app and a website. They are a business to merchant kind of a company. So we are talking about these kinds of product company who have publicly accessible web application and mobile applications, or maybe they are offering software as a service via their SaaS web application, and they are offering a subscription model. Now, the people of those organizations, if they are involved in product security, then they would face a problem statement, which is in such small companies or early startups are so focused on product development, making their product innovative, capturing the market, and then they overlook product security. Maybe they would, if they are a fintech side of a company, they would get their ISO and uh, SOC 2 Type 2 and all of that. So they, address the basic security problem if they are facing a revenue problem. So some companies say that, hey, have, we cannot buy your product if you don't have this kind of a certification. So they do those basics, but then they ultimately overlook product security. And after once the tech stack grows, code base grows, after 2, 3 years, 4 years, they realize that they really don't have security. Once their basic problem is solved, they start worrying about security more. But then in that, to hurry that process, they buy commercial tools or they use some internal solution. But without the security expertise they don't get optimal results. They feel that we are secure and we have done product security. But if they had that expertise, they would realize that genuinely have not implemented the right kind of a product security program. So we'll talk about that. What is the methodology to solve a product security program? How do you implement it? What is the roadmap and what are the initiatives you should took to make that program effective? And then if we have time, we are also happy to answer your questions, anything you have. So let us also understand the general, very basic methodology to solve product security. When you are doing product security or application security for the very first time in your org, not as you as an individual, but org as an or activity as an org, then first you have to discover your asset. How many web applications you have which are exposed to internet, how many subdomains you have, how many cloud assets are exposed to the internet, how many APIs are exposed to the internet. So you discover all of your assets and then you perform a security assessment of those assets. You fix those security issue. Then you assess the overall security posture of the organization in terms of application security and product security. And then you will start going towards secure part, which is ensure that security issues don't occur in the first place. So what you discover, then you assess, you fix, and then you go for security. So let us try to convert this very simple methodology into a proper product security program roadmap. So in product security, they say that you shift left. So here we will start from first step, which is asset discovery and scanning. Then we will move towards second step, which is security reviews of critical features. Then we'll go towards vulnerability management. How do you make your security engineering org security aware? Then how do you get into your release cycle or sprint cycle of your org? Then how do you prevent vulnerabilities from occurring in the first place? And how do you implement security automation towards it? How do you implement security automation for product security or application security monitoring? And then at the end, how do you convey the impact you made to the engineering, to the leadership, so they feel that your importance and they feel the impact. So instead of this chart going from right towards left, it is going from left to right, because in product security there is a very popular buzzword called shift left. So we have taken that buzzword as a methodology, and we have crafted our entire program roadmap into that kind of a mindset. So we'll start from asset discovery and vulnerability scanning. So, as I mentioned, when you start doing product security for the first time in your organization, which is a very small startup, or if it's a proper startup, but if they don't have security team, then first you need to do is asset discovery and vulnerability scanning. As I mentioned, uh, as I mentioned, you start taking a note of how many web applications you have which are exposed to the internet, how many top level domains you have, how many subdomains you have, what are your mobile apps, where they are hosted. Apart from official Play Store or official App Store, are you publishing app elsewhere or not? If you are not publishing apps in any other third party Play Store apart from the App Store and Google Play Store, is there anybody on the internet that who they have downloaded your APK and they're uploading your APK to other third party app stores such as APK Share and whatever? Are there any people who are modifying or modding your APK and they are sharing that modded APK or fake APK with the logo of your company, then how many API endpoints you have which are exposed to the internet, how many cloud resources you have which can be publicly exposed, such as publicly exposed S3 buckets and all of that. So the idea or the outcome is you build an asset inventory in a single place, and then and based on the asset type, you start performing security assessment, automated and manual both, and you find out how many low hanging fruits or how many low severity issues are there, or what are the immediate risks to your company in terms of application security and product security. So to convert that step into action, you build an asset tracker where you have your every asset listed, as I mentioned, and then you perform vulnerability or security scanning on all of those, and then I'll go deeper into this particular step. I'll also show the demo of how do you do that. But once you find out those security issues, you start validating those security issues manually as well if you have found those security issues via automation, and then you start raising Jira tickets for that, and then you also ensure that those tickets are assigned to the right kind of a developer for that particular asset, and you also convey to those developers saying that, hey, this is the security issue, this is important, not important, and this is the timeline we should be looking at to fix that particular security issue. And then if you have cloud assets, you can run CIS benchmark, or you run open source tools such as Crawler, Scout Suite to generally, perform an asset tracking or asset discovery of your cloud assets, and run certain automated tools, including CIS benchmarking. And you also identify cloud security misconfigurations, and you also try to address those. So here we are not looking at performing a very, very deep dive scan, but creating a basic automatic asset tracker, and then running basic security tools, so that we whatever immediate security issue or whatever low hanging fruits are, those can be covered. Now, I'll just give you an example of how that asset discovery and vulnerability scanning dashboard can look like. I'll also show you a demo, and whatever I'm showing you right now is an open source tool. So after the session, you can go install that tool and maybe implement for that tool for your organizations. So the dashboard has multiple things. One of them is assets, so where you have all of your domains and subdomains listed. Then you also have what are the vulnerabilities uh, in those domains, and you can say that this is a high risk, this is a low risk, and all of those you can do, and you can start doing that. Then I'm also showing you a cloud dashboard as well. You can create a basic IAM rule such as a security audit role, and via that role, IAM role, you can connect with crawler, or you can run basic assessment on your AWS, Azure, or GCP. You can also perform the same on Kubernetes as well. So this is how that outcome will look like. And once you have that assessment done by automated tool, you can start taking notes, validating those issues, and start raising tickets. So I'll quickly show you the demo of two tools. I won't be able to show you everything in terms of demo, but let me quickly show you how that outcome looks like.
Yeah. So meanwhile, let me cover one more question which most of the people ask, right? So, who can be the right person for the product security, right? So, it's like when you have started, it will take some time, but overall, if you have the knowledge of let's say printers and testing, so it's sometime you have done the printers and testing, so you understand how these assets work. So as Maulik was explaining about the network side, about the asset side, so you understand about the firewall, you understand about the CDNs, DNS, and how these servers work. So those are the some of the skill sets that is required for product security. And as application is hosted over cloud, so knowledge of cloud security is also now becoming mandatory to become a good product security engineer. Yeah,
Sure.
go
Thank
ahead,
you for
Maulik.
that. Sure. Thank you for that, Sanjeev. So since we have very limited time and we are focusing overall on the methodology part, we might not be focusing too much on the tooling in terms of how do you install it for your organization, how do you run it, and all of that. Those can be covered later via the resources that Sanjay will be sharing with you. But let me show you the how the outcome will look like of that activity you will be doing for your own org. So here you have the, all of these assets. Like whatever assets you have, how many top level domains you onboarded, how many subdomains you have, and how many of them are behind CDN, what are the CDNs you are using, how many of those are behind WAF, what kind of web application firewalls you are using, and then what are those vulnerabilities of your org, how many of there are them are app vulnerabilities, such as if there is a subdomain which is running a web application, then that can will be counted as a app asset. If it is a subdomain but it does not have an application running as such, but it has, let's say you have a just FTP running on that, so it will be a non-app asset, but it might have a security issue. So this dashboard will cover basically that. I'll also give you one more example of Project Discovery Cloud as well. So once you sign up, uh, you can basically onboard your org, whatever org name you have, and then you can specify the list of top level domains such as acme.dev, acme.com, acme.org, and all of that. And once you do that, it will start doing asset discovery, and it will show how many subdomains your organization has, how many, and you can see the details of every subdomain, such as it is using S3, AWS, Redis, Ruby on Rails, and all of that. And then you can also have technology wise description. Okay, these many assets are behind AWS, these many assets have nginx up and running, and all of that. uh, so you can all have all of that. And then once you perform scan, which is a nuclei scan in this particular case, you can also so let me give you an example of so in this case you have, let's say, these many security issues, right? So you can, for every category issue, for example, for this particular security issue, I have five different subdomains or five different uh, uh, assets or instances which has that particular. So you can see your six request response here. You can also have your curl so that you can reproduce it. And once you reproduce it, you can say that, hey, this is true or accepted risk, or this is fixed, not fixed, whatever your current status is. If it is a valid security issue, you will say that it is open. And then you can also connect your Jira ticketing tool here, Jira or whatever tool you are using, and you can set up that integration, and you can fire, create those tickets and assign those tickets to relevant person, and so that you can actually start focusing on fixing those security issues. And the good thing is you can also connect your cloud services here. You can connect Cloudflare, AWS, DigitalOcean, GCP, and all of that. So whatever other known app or cloud things you have, you can also connect those, and you can have a single thing which has a single dashboard which has everything listed into a single screen. So this was basically the idea. I have listed down all of. So there are two things which we showed. One was Project Discovery Cloud, and we also touched a bit upon Mantis tool as well. So these are basically you can create an automated workflow, and in Mantis also it will, gives you a complete workflow built already. So you just need to run that tool. But if you want to implement your own workflow depending on the needs of your organization, these are some of the tools which you can use, and then you can pick and choose and build your custom workflow. But ultimately, the outcome will look like the demos we have showed. Now let us move towards the second step, or second phase, or second step in the roadmap of how do you go in depth. So once you have created an asset dashboard, once you have completed, performing security revision, once you have started creating Jira tickets or security tickets for solving those security issues, then based on the needs of your organization, you define what are the most critical features, most critical backend services for your org. To give a fintech example, login flows, authentication, authorization, all payment flows, SSO login, forgot password, account recovery, payments, uh, and all of that would be the most critical features in terms of business. that if this is hacked, or if this particular feature is impacted, our business as usual is impacted, or our revenue is impacted. Some of the things could be compliance related. For example, compliance is more of a broader activity, but compliance will also have 4 or 5 different things or actions to be implemented in terms of product security, and application security. Could be implementation of WAF, could be implementation, or could be review of certain critical features. So whatever compliance needs are, you can also connect to compliance and say that we are going to perform a deep dive of, or security review of those features. If you have any action points to be done, please let us know. And generally, we have observed that when there is a technical compliance team coming into picture, it plays a big role because people take compliance more seriously in the initial years, rather than focusing on application and product security. So when you go to the say and when you go to them and say that this is required for compliance, nobody can say no to a compliance related task, right? They have to do it. So what you do is, once you have finalized your main most critical assets and features and backend services, you can, if you have the documentation of it, you can perform an architecture review, or you can perform a design review, threat modeling. So once you have performed that threat modeling, you can go further and you can perform an automated or manual source code review of those things. Could be your backend services code review, or could be code review of your front end web applications such as React, Android, or iOS. You look for security issues, you look for business logic issues, you look for hard coded secrets, and you can also do an automated SCA and SBOM scan, where whatever uh, your backend services are, if any of those are using any third party packages, and if those third party packages have a security issue, or if that third party package is also using some other dependency, if those dependencies have a security issue, then you can perform a direct dependency vulnerability scan. And if your assets or your backend services are affected by those, you can also start taking note of it. Then you can also use perform automated and manual pen testing tools. There are general tools such as Bossuit. There are also very focused tools as well. Bobsuit and other tools have also have capability to parse your Swagger and could start building API requests from those Swagger. So you really don't need to manually do all of that. The tools are capable of doing it. You can focus more on the business logic, authorization, and all of that when you're performing your manual review of your backend APIs. Then you can, whatever you have in terms of your front end, such as Android, iOS, or web, you can also perform automated security reviews and manual security reviews, so that if your front end assets have any improper validation, hard coded secrets, and all of that. These are the tools. I'll just show you a very quick demo, but you can take note of these tools later, so that you can also start experimenting those tools and see how they are fit for your organization. So I'll just show you the a quick command. I'll just show you ls first. So this is a public GitHub repo I've cloned. It could be a public GitHub repo. It could be a repo of your own company. But basically, you have to clone that repo and you have to be in that particular repo. Or you can be in a folder which has multiple repos inside it. And the command is called samgraph CLI. Once you run that command, it gives you this kind of an output saying that there are vulnerable dependency and one of them is directly reachable. There are other 9 dependencies. There are other 9 vulnerable dependencies, but whether those are reachable or not reachable, we are not sure. And then there are 4 security issues in your code and all of that. There are 5 non-blocking code padding, which are there are security issues, but those are non-blocking. So once you run it on your own terminal, you can export this into a dashboard, and then you can go to the same dashboard and let us say that. So this particular project which I scanned, which is called Damn Vulnerable Restaurant API game, it could be a backend repo, it could be anything in your case. You can see that what are the code findings, and this is, let's say, is vulnerable to command injection, I think, or it is not verifying. the let me go to a better example. Right. So this gives you the understanding. It does not copy or read your source code. So that way your source code is secure. It runs the rules on a machine, and only the results or the text, the summary and all of that, which is not related to your or not copying your source code. So it's your source code is not copied at all, but it gives you a summary of what the security issue is. It also performs the source to traces to sync scan. It does not give you the source code here, but basically you can click and you can also then try that tool. So you can say that the security issue is open. I'm trying to fix it and all of that. So you can have tracking of that security issue here itself. If you want to see that exact code, you can click on that line and say that, hey, this is that exact security issue or something like that. Right? And then you can also connect your Jira as well, because since you are in a so you can connect your Jira here itself. You can connect your Slack, you can connect the Jira, and whenever there is a very security issue, you can have that. Same way, you can have supply chain findings if your backend service is using some dependencies or some library third party packages. And if those have a CVE or some security issue, those will come here. Such as I'm using, uh, my project is using uh, some dependency which is called Python JOS. It has a CVE, and I'm using version 3.3.0. So it has a CVE that is showing me that. And then if my dependencies have a CV, so for example, my project has a CV that I'll come to know. But if my project has using certain dependencies, for example, I'm using a bcrypt, and that bcrypt library is using also a dependency. So that will also be scanned, and if that has a security issue, that will also be showing it to you. This was about asset discovery and performing critical security reviews of critical features. And then we'll talk about vulnerability management, not a traditional vulnerability management where you do SOC, or maybe you find vulnerabilities of your VM and all of that. This is not about that. This is more about product security and application security vulnerabilities. So whatever activity you did in terms of asset discovery and scanning and performing automated and manual security reviews of your critical features, all of those vulnerability you will start filing in your Jira. Maybe you will create a Jira project, for example, called security issues or ProdSec, something like that, and you will start filing Jira tickets in those, and you will, via your connects, you will come to know that okay, this is the right team or right point developer who is responsible for this particular asset type of service. You will start assigning those tickets. So all the security issues you identified in step 1 and 2 are raised in Jira and Jira ticketing systems. Then, as an org or as a product security and application security team, you will define a severity matrix depending on the type of your organization, business type, whether it is fintech, non-fintech, all of those things you will consider, and you will define a severity matrix. And as per those severity metrics, you will define SLA timelines, such as if it is in high, if it is a high valid issue, if it is in broad, it should be fixed, let's say, within 5 days. If it is medium, let's say it can be fixed in, let's say, 1 week. If it is low, it can be fixed in, let's say, 30 days, something like that. And you will publish that severity metrics and SLA to the engineering org, and whatever security issues you have created in terms of Jira ticketing or any other ticketing tool, you will define that severity metrics and SLA timeline in that Jira project. You will have maybe an auto third party plugin. So it sees the severity and it sees the environment such as production and stage, and it will start automatically performing a counter of SLA saying that okay, this many days are remaining, and if it is reaches a 50% SLA, for example, it was supposed to be fixed in a month. Now there are 15 days already gone and only 15 days remaining. So it will whoever that ticket is assigned to, whoever person, an automated emailer is sent to that person saying that hey, 50% SLA is gone, only 50% is remaining. Please speak to AppSec if you need any help. Then there will be certain security issues initially which are likely to go beyond SLA. You can't become uh, uh, a ruler for your engineering. Your engineering say that we are occupied in terms of bandwidth. We understand that this is an important security issue, but we cannot fix it right now. So you start defining defenses around that security issue, which will lower that severity, or which will lower the likelihood of that security issue being exploited in real life. So we'll start putting those assets or things, those things behind CD, and you will optimize your WAF rules. You will start implementing monitoring, could be a custom Python script, could be data log monitoring. So we'll start uh, implementing defense in depth, and you will also start putting monitoring so that if somebody is trying to uh, exploit that security issue or somebody is trying to attack that vulnerable asset, you will come to know. So this is how, even if you have an SLA in all of that, you will have to support your engineering work. And the more you support them, the more they'll be happy to welcome you and the more they'll be happy to listen to you. So let us understand what we have achieved so far. So as a AppSec team or a product security team for an org, you found out all the externally or exposed publicly exposed assets such as domains, subdomains, web application, mobile application, publicly exposed S3 cloud assets and everything. And depending on your type asset type, so you basically created an asset tracker where everything is listed there. Depending on your asset type, you performed vulnerability scanning, you tried those security issues, you raised Jira, you defined SLA and all of that. And your team is continuously helping the dev team to fix security issues as per the SLA or priority. People say that we don't have bandwidth, no worries. This was supposed to be fixed in a month, no worries. Let us fix within 3 months. But let us also start putting counters in terms of Jira tracking, saying that this is out of SLA but needs to be fixed in 3 months, something like that. And then you already have implemented defensive depth and all of that. So this is something. So basically, if I have to summarize, you have reviewed all the publicly or internet exposed web and or mobile assets, and you have tried to secure it already, or you are in the process of securing it. So this is more of a security review. Now you are actually starting your shift left or secure by design. But the reason why you have to come by this particular methodology is you cannot do shift left from day one. You cannot do secure by design day one. You have to make your engineering realize that whatever we had developed so far in the past has security issue, and then they will become more aware about what impact it can have. So what would the next step is, how do you make your engineering more security aware, and how do you make your engineering embrace that security? So once you have all of that activity done, and in terms of my experience, that entire activity can 6 months or 3 months depending on how small or large your company is, and then you do a retrospective security awareness training. So take a half day workshop. So whatever security issues we have found so far, categorize those security into issues in terms of asset types or business units. Such as you have a business unit called payments, and in that payment there is a backend service. So there are multiple backend services, but then there is a front end for payment as well. So you define your uh, uh, business units, such as one is payment, uh, one is let's say merchants, or whatever your business units are, and those business units are further defined or categorized into asset types, and based on that asset type, so you say that, hey, one of my org is let's say business to merchant org, and in business to merchant org, in backend I have found 50 security issues. Let me categorize those security issues into a different category. So one category could be authorization, one could be authentication, what could be misconfiguration, one could be injection, and all of that. So you take a retrospective, but a customized or a personalized kind of a training. So you let's say in 1 week you are having training for backend devs, which were part of, let's say, business to merchant backend org. So you say that, hey, we perform security reviews for business to merchant backend, and we found these many security issues. And these are the most frequent categories of security issues. The top is, let's say, authorization. Second is injection. and you tell them that why this security, how you found that security issue, why it was a security issue in the first place, what was the scenario, what was that vulnerable MR, and what is the new after fixing that security issue, what was the secure code MR look like, and what are the best practices to prevent issues from occurring. So when you go to that particular team and say that, hey, this team, you have made these many security issues so far, this is the impact those security issues had or could have, and this is how much time we have spent, fixing towards the security issues. So when you start realizing the importance of it, and then they'll start taking it seriously. So once you have done those retrospective security awareness trainings for different teams based on their asset type and based on their business unit, and then you create and publish secure coding standards to the engineering. What people do is they provide OWASP top 10 training, and then people take ASVS, or people take some random secure coding standard which is available on internet, and they just copy paste it, saying that, hey, for Python, OWASP recommends these things, you just do it. That will not work. Whatever security issues you have found in your previous activity, you categorize it into the business units, asset type, and all of that. And then now you go to your engineering org and say that if for a business to merchant org or business unit, for backend, let's say we have Python and you also have Java and you also have, let's say, Node.js. So you publish secure coding standards for merchants, like business to merchant business unit for backend. And within backend, you publish security coding standards for Python, Java, and Node.js as well. You also provide them secure coding boilerplate. You also provide them insecure code snippets, and you also include most common use cases they have. For example, if that particular org is very integration heavy, means they are doing integrations with, let's say, PayPal and Razorpay and all of that. So if their main use case is creating those integrations, then your boilerplate code, your code examples should be focusing on that. So make those secure coding standards so much relevant for them that they can directly reference it. It is highly relevant for their use case. Then same way, instead of organizing and what some companies do is once their product security program is 1 year into the journey or 2 year into the journey, to make their security more important, to make engineering more security aware, they start organizing CTFs and they have AppSec championship program and all of that. But those are very general. Instead, you should have focused CTF. So let's say your team has found 100 securities issues in last 1 year. You identify top 20 of them or most occurring 20 of them, and then you create a vulnerable web application or a mobile application. If your company is less an insurance company, so you start building a vulnerable insurance web application or vulnerable insurance mobile application, and whatever securities you have found in your company in the past, out of that choose the most frequent one and start implementing those in that vulnerable application, rather than taking any vulnerable application which is available on the internet and all of that. So once you do focused security awareness activities, then your org will understand these are the mistakes you have made in the past. This is uh, how it was made, and this is how we ensure that this does not occur in future. Any questions so far? If there are any critical questions, Sanjeev.
Uh, yeah, not much, but there is one question which, anyways, I have answered in brief, but you can answer to this community. Like, after this OS top 10 release in 2021 and now let's say 2023 or 2024, what vulnerabilities in your experience have you observed lessen over the years till now in products and applications? So that's the
Correct.
question from one of the guy, Shubham, I guess.
Uh,
Yeah.
sure. So Shubham, to answer your question, injection vulnerabilities have reduced significantly, which is your HTML injection, XSS, SQL injection, all of that. especially SQL injection. So general injection vulnerabilities have started uh, coming lower. But when I go the opposite side of it, which is what vulnerabilities I have found most in general in my previous companies wherever I worked so far, majorly when you are part of a product company, authorization issues, business logic issues uh, will be the highest.
Yeah, and to add that point, like because the libraries, software libraries, and the infrastructure are getting matured, so the problems related to CSRF, CSS, CSRF, or SSRF, or the very basic of accesses, even like those are getting reduced.
Definitely. So let us do a quick summary of what we have done so far. We did asset discovery and scanning. We performed security reviews. We started vulnerability management program. We made security engineering aware, and we have tried to show them what mistakes you made in the past, how it could have costed them, and all of that. And now this is the time where they are happy to listen to. Till now they were maybe listening to you because they had to. Now they feel the importance of security. If we are not doing it right now, then we are doomed, or we are at a very high risk, especially in fintech scenario. So now this is the time to get into the release cycle, get into the sprint. So before you start doing this activity, you have to convey what benefit they will get out of this activity. For example, uh, some companies follow a 15 days release cycle or 15 days sprint. Some companies have 30 days sprint. Now, this sprint are so fast, especially in a product company, which is a B2C product. Take any B2C example you have, whatever apps you're using in terms of e-commerce, shopping, quick delivery, and all of that. Do you will see that you have at least some random Play Store update or App Store update for those apps every 15 days or 30 days. So their cycle is so fast, they genuinely don't have to time to listen to product security or application security teams. So when you go to them and say that I want to become part of your sprint or release cycle, they are likely to take it as another headache. Instead, you tell them that whatever activity we performed so far, we have found so many security issues that it makes sense for you to become secure by design. And let me tell you what benefit you will get out of it. So you can tell them that, hey, right now what had happened so far is you already took 15 days or 1 month of sprint or a release cycle to develop that feature and make it to prod. So you did your designing, you did your development, you did your QA, and then you did your, let's say, 1% release. And you once you had stability, you released it to everybody, and it took 15 days for you. But then we found security issues, and those were important security issues. So you had to redevelop, which took, let's say, 2-3 days of time. Then you had to do re-QA, automated and manual both, and then you had to deploy again. So when you went without us in the past, there are 15 or 55 such instances because we have performed those activities in the past, in last 6 months or a year. You have the exact number with the details and instances. So you can go to a particular engineering manager and say that, hey, in your business unit, in your backend service, there are these instances where your team had to redevelop, recode, like re-QA, and then deploy. So in that process, your team has wasted 4 days in average, and this is the time in total your team has spent. So rather, let me become part of the sprint or a release cycle, so that instead of you spending 15 days plus 4 days, you will spend maybe 16 days in total. So you're reducing your time. So let us start with 15 plus one security day. In the future, we start reducing those numbers as and when we could become more mature in terms of security as an org. So you start understanding how your sprint and release cycle was more deeper, then you start finding out what are the lead engineers or what are the engineering managers you should connect after the sprint is created. So if they have a monthly sprint, then it is likely that within the first week they will plan the sprint. They will have the tickets created, Jira board stories, and all of that created. You connect with them. You take half an hour dump or 15 minutes quick dump from them, and then you ask them to connect you with the right point of contact for product and for development who is handling this particular feature. So you go to a product team and you go to your engineering there and say that, hey, whatever is on paper or whatever is in thoughts, you convey those details to me. If you don't have a documentation such as PRD review or PRD or sequence diagram or something like that, I will get that information from you. I will create it for you, and I will perform a design review or a threat modeling, sequence diagram review or API spec review, and I will give you my best recommendation of before you start developing. These are the security issues I can see from the design, or these are the security best practices you should follow before you start. So even if it does not have a security issue, you can say that these are the best practices you should follow for this particular feature. So they build it securely by design and by code as well. Then once they start developing, they would have their RC cut or like their feature branch ready. So they will have their merge request or a pull request, and you can request them to submit that whenever their merge request or pull request is ready. You can ask them to submit that MR link or PR link, and you will perform tasks and all of that. So you will manually review that source code, or you will again run some there for some sort of tool on your own machine. And if there are any security issues which were not covered in the design, such as they have not written that validation properly, or if there are any certain code specific issues, you can do that. If there are backend APIs, then you can ask them to deploy those backend APIs on stage, or you can deploy those backend APIs on your own machine. Do a quick pen test via Burp or manually as well, and you will help them to find security issues on stage before they go to production. So ultimately, you validate those practices, you perform security reviews, and then after that they will go live. So this helps them to avoid that 4 or 5 days of redevelopment, re-QA, because it went live and then you found a issue. So this once you start doing this activity more and more, and once you start conveying those benefits, people will understand that. And in that process, you also connect with compliance again, and you build a basically an NPRA. So whenever you have the technical compliance team, whenever a big feature or a big product is going live, they will also create an NPRA kind of a framework to check whether this particular feature or product involves any payment, PII, if it needs to follow any compliance standards such as PCI, DSS, and all of that. So if you are part of that team or if you're part of that conversation, you can start conveying those things to your product team during the design phase. So by design, they are compliant to those frameworks and those compliance standards rather than developing and then implementing those. So although I could go on and on for this, for point five, I'm stopping here. If you have any further questions for point five, we can address in QA. So now you are part of the release cycle. Now your whatever things are going on production are getting security reviewed by you. You have already developed a good relationship with them. They have started understanding your benefits. Then your next step should be, how do you prevent vulnerabilities from occurring at the source? You are already doing that in step 5, but how do you go one step further? For example, here, when you are performing design reviews, nobody will tell you that, hey, I'm going to use this particular dependency or this particular this and this version of this. Your design reviews, you will not come to know usually in most cases. When that code gets ready and comes to you, and then you say that, hey, they have used this specific thing. So they will tell you that, hey, I was trying to develop it, but then it was taking so much time of development. So our team agreed to use a third party open source package right now rather than developing it again. In future years, we will build that feature from scratch ourselves. So in design doc, you did not come to know, but then now you're performing manual SaaS or SCA, then you find that security issue. So how do you try to prevent those vulnerabilities at the Sonatype Nexus or JFrog Artifactory. It is also called a repository as well. So whenever your engineering org is building backend services, or whenever you have CI pipelines, whatever those dependencies are, such as Maven dependencies, Node dependencies, Java dependencies, Python dependencies, those are loaded from internally hosted Artifactory or repository to prevent vulnerable dependencies. So instead of, let's say and you can also start creating golden images as well and publishing it via the Artifactory. So your organization start using those golden images and that dependencies from that internal repo rather than loading it from a publicly available source. So you have some control of what do you want to give to your product company or your engineering org in terms of what they can use. And uh, another best practice is don't keep them limited on a particular version. So, for example, if they want to use Python, then give them a range of from let's say Python 3.1 to Python 3.8, something like that. So, because every service, every feature is different. So they for their use case, they might need a specific version of Python. They might need a specific version of a certain Node.js package. So you host a variety of those, but then you can also prevent supply chain attacks. For example, in Node.js, supply chain attacks are quite relevant. In PyPy, which is Python packages, supply chain attacks are relevant. So when you have your internally hosted dependencies and when you are updating them once in a quarter, it is likely that you are also preventing your org from supply chain attacks and loading a malicious dependency into your org. Then what I've also seen is people implement SaaS everywhere and they get so many alerts, so many tickets. Engineering also get bombarded with alerts and tickets and this and that. They get frustrated. Rather, you should implement very impactful, very chosen SaaS in CI. So you can implement SunGrep SaaS or SunGrep SCA, Git leaks only for those services which are critical or important. And then you should also focus, you should also not deploy it or run it for every merge or every commit or every pull request. Rather than allow them to do whatever they do in terms of their feature branch, in terms of their stage environment, let them do whatever they want. But once they finalize their code and once they start merging into let's say develop branch or main branch or master branch, which is ultimately going to deploy on production. There you have your SaaS or SCA or Git leaks. So whatever they do want, whatever they whatever they want to do in terms of stage, they are free to do. But security should kick in as in when they want to start pushing their code for production. So whenever somebody is trying to do a merge request or a pull request into develop main or master branch, then your security should kick in. Because otherwise you will not be able to scale your security because you are 4 or 5 people performing security, all these activities for entire org, you will not be able to scale with them. And you ensure that for valid issues, ticket is created, auto assigned to the developer, and SLA is also triggered by an automated plugin. Then one thing which you can do is what happens after an API goes live or what happens when an API goes live. So it is likely that the developer gave you the merge request or a pull request for manual review which had only 5 APIs. But later they decided to go for 6 APIs. Some automated SaaS SCA Gitleaks was run on that API endpoint, but it did not come for manual review. So when you have API monitoring, which is as simple as creating a Python backend service or a Node.js service which connects with your API gateway, it dumps that API gateway JSON config. It passes that and tells you that on day zero, these are the APIs in total. And then every day you can do a diff. Every day your service will do a diff from a diff from let's say day two to day one, and whatever the new APIs are, those you will be able to identify that hey, in this week or on this particular or today or tomorrow, today or yesterday, these are the APIs which have went live, and then your team can comment that this API was verified or reviewed so that if there is an API which has gone live without your approval, you can go back to that engineering team and say that let us perform a quick review of this API so that this API is also secure. Then the last step is this. Once you have done everything for your engineering work, still some product security leads, security architects, engineering manager of security team or head of product security teams will have a complaint that we are not getting enough budget, we are not getting enough manpower, we are not getting enough importance. People are not taking us as seriously as they should. So then it is more about how do you increase your visibility, how do you convey your impact, how do you convey your importance to that leadership. So leadership, which is the business leadership and engineering leadership, how do you make them take you seriously? So whatever you have done so far, convert it into a quarterly email for engineering managers and engineering leadership. Send an emailer to them and convey these things, such as how many business units have open security issues in terms of the numbers, in terms of the details, and how many of those security issues are beyond SLA in a production environment, and how urgent it is to fix it. Then you also say that in this quarter we performed total these many security reviews, but out of that, these many were very noteworthy. These were the critical security issues we identified in that security review, and these many security issues were prevented from going into production. How many total APIs went to production this quarter? How many went live with product security AppSec approval? How many went live without product security or AppSec approval? Uh, then what security automation you did? For example, the examples I gave in step number 6, you can talk about that as well. Then you say that what impact you have made before product security program and after security program. So you can say that before the security program was there, uh, whatever feature went live, engineering took 5 days for that security issue to fix in terms of redevelopment, reQA, and production. So in sprint, you spend 15 days, plus you're also spending 4 days extra. And those 4 days extra are also getting a risk in terms of financial impact or business impact. After you started performing security reviews, uh, which is your step number uh, which is getting into release cycle. The original sprint was supposed to be 15 days, but then they had to accommodate you as well before going into prod. But now, after performing 50 security reviews or 100 security reviews in total for everybody, then now you are saying that before the engineering had to submit their things for security review, it took us a day or two to perform that security review, and then they went back, fix those security issues, and then they go to prod. But after a year or 2 years, now earlier it was 4 days of security reviews and approval and then go to prod. Now it is 1 day of security review and go to prod. So once you start conveying that timeline, saying that we are helping you to become your secure and we are also helping you to go to prod faster in terms of security reviews, then they will understand your impact even more. And then you also talk about how many security trainings we provided, how it helped them. Uh, For example, before security trainings, people were coming to you for design review, and in every design review, you identified 4 or 5 security issues, and out of them, one or two were critical or high. Now, after a year or two, when people are coming to you, instead of 4 or 5 security issues, you are identifying only one or two, and those are very low or medium severity issues. So severities have gone down. The number of security issues in terms of design reviews, SAST, SC has also gone down, and people have generally become more security aware. And then you can also talk about how many CTFs you did, what was the outcome, and how your org has become so mature that they are developing things from secure by design perspective or shift left perspective. So this was all that. This is the entire methodology. which is performing asset discovery, scanning, performing security reviews, doing vulnerability management, onboarding your engineering for security, getting into the release cycle, preventing vulnerabilities, doing security automation, and increasing the visibility. When you talk about a shift left perspective, it is not that you can only do one after step two, where these things can be done together also. These things can be done together also. So some things can be done one after the other, but the majority of the activities can be done in parallel. And it is not that once you do it and you are done. You have to do it again and again. You have to do continuous asset discovery. You have to do continuous scanning so that whatever has gone live also keeps automatically, getting scanned and discovered. You are every year, you are again going back to those critical features and maybe performing a sanity review again. For example, if there was an integration done 2 years back, at that time you had reviewed it. But now after 2 years, let me review it again and see if there are any changes which were not discussed in that 2 year of journey. Then vulnerability management will keep becoming a continuous exercise for every security issue. You keep making your engineering aware. You keep taking those trainings, your workshops, focus CTF, focus activity. You keep building your relationship because people will keep changing. Engineering managers will come and go. Uh, Lead developers will come and go. Developers will come and go. So you need to do it again and again for people also and for that asset types also. So you will keep speaking to people in terms of engineering or release cycle will keep focusing on, or you will keep doing activities on how do you keep doing security automation, how do you mold your uh, security automation, how do you make changes in your repository so that it is more relevant for engineering, how do you keep increasing your visibility, how you keep showing your impact again and again every quarter, every year, so that you have enough security budget for every year. So this was the entire product security program, the initiatives, the roadmap which you can keep implementing in your org. I'll stop here and I will try to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Malik. That was very insightful session, and few things that you covered. Right, it just not covers about program roadmap, but it covers also like what as a product security engineer you have to do, right, and how you can grow into through the ladder. Like the last slide that you were showing, like how you are showing all these metrics to the management team or to the stakeholder, and you talked about budget and also these are also one of the use cases where product security guys have to know, right? Not just about this shift left things or about SCA or SST tools or software supply chain security kind of thing, but overall product idea you should have. That's why it is called as a product security. So thank you, Malik, for that. And let me take some of the questions. So the first question again is from Subham. Thank you. One more question. Ever since the log4shell vulnerability was discovered, how have development teams adapted their practices to address the risk associated with open source libraries and ensure better dependency security? Does SCA gives enough confidence to developers? Uh, in short, it is like partial, yes or no. But yeah, people are getting more aware. Even the security team is taking, because once some mistakes happen, then only you make the rules, all policies, procedures. The same way, all these SCA tools are also adding all these features, and they are also helping, as Malik was telling, right? How you can basically help developers, right? Don't always say that these were the problems and these are the issues. Rather, how you can go ahead and tell them like these are the things and how can we help you, right? So yes, for after this log4shell or many other like software supply chain security is also taking the boom in that side, and SCA tools are considering all these things, right? So the answer is partial, but yes, it is helping.
Shubham, I'll
uh
also take
yeah,
this question, just if you don't mind.
yeah,
Uh,
sure.
so let me give you a broader example, Shubham. Let's say whether it is any component, and if it did not have a security issue earlier, but now it has a security issue, then whatever threat intelligence feed you are using, for example, if you are using Nexus Sonar type repository, or if you are using, let's say, JFrog repository, it will give you an alert saying that the version earlier was not vulnerable, but now it is vulnerable. Uh, Same way, your SaaS tools such as SendGrip. and SCA tools. So SemGrep is used for SAST, SCA dependencies, and all of that. Those will also keep updating their rule sets and their definitions. So if you run the same scan again on a component, if it is same version, but after a month, it is likely that it may give you a better result or more result. So it is not just about log for shell, but it is more about the entire process. So during your design reviews as well, your engineering can say that, hey, we are planning to use this particular third party library. They have not started using it, but you can quickly download that one library on your own machine, run a quick SumGrep scan and say that, hey, this feels safe enough or this does not feel safe enough.
Yeah. So I think the another question that was there, like for product security, getting involved initially involves reviewing architecture, threat modeling, and all. But going further in subsequent sprints, when new features are developed, what are the things we should focus on? And can you share a template for the reviews that are performed? I think one of your slide has covered it. But Malik, do you want to go ahead for this question?
Uh, sure. Sanjeev, who asked this question?
Sachindra.
Sachindra. Let me quickly go to chat and read that question again. Sanjeev,
Me,
can you please repeat that question for me?
yeah. Meanwhile, guys, I have shared the feedback form that will help us to improvise further and coming up with another session, a deep dive session, or some of the other session on AI security or AI product security or anything on threat modeling. There are so many topics that we have to cover. 2025, we are determined to cover at least one session in a month. So we are teaming up with more other people like Maulik and Nikhil and other people. So please fill that form. That will help us.
So depending on your, so one is about the processes, the tooling, the templates and all of that. But another thing is also about uh, so as you start getting into your sprint more and more, it is 50% chance that just by looking at that design, you will say that, hey, this is going to be a security issue. Uh, it is not. So in terms of, so it is more about your, what do you say, your experience with the previous security reviews. So generally, you will find those kind of issues in that going further for our use case, that this can become a security issue. In terms of templating and general things, in terms of threat modeling, you can use Stride, which is one of the most popular threat modeling, uh, what do you say, methodology. And so in terms of tool for security reviews, you can design security reviews. You can use OWASP Threat Dragon, which helps you to create design docs such as sequence diagram or DFD level 1, DFD level 2. So you can trace that entire request response life cycle. You can draw the entire design and start poking every part of the design. So in terms of tooling, you can use draw.io or OAS Threat Dragon, or Microsoft also has a threat modeling tool. You can use that. In terms of methodology or template, you can use Stride. Apart from Stride, there are also other threat modeling uh, methodology or frameworks as well. So you can also use that. More, I think that can be even deeper covered by Sanjeev, because he has published couple of repos and all the other learning materials. So his material would be covering all of those more in detail.
Yeah, I think we we are already like above 10 minutes from the scheduled time. But let's take the last question, which is an interesting question. But yeah, it's not directly related. But let me read that. Please, this question is asked by Govind. So please share some insight about AI product security. Is it something different from the topics what you have covered?
Sanjeev, I would request you to take that one.
Okay, so basically, when you talk about a product security, so product security is not a specific to one application or one product, right? It can be, as he was explaining, it can be for finance team, it can be for IoT devices, it can be for medical devices. So it depends, like what kind of product you are dealing, what kind of software environment you are dealing, what kind of hosting things you are dealing. So the similar way now, everywhere you will see like they are adding AI integrated tools. So AI is solving this problem, AI is solving lots of SCA problems, lots of SST problem. So here, when you see this question, like AI product security, it is nothing but there are two ways to see it. Either it is AI products where you are seeing the security, or your product security, how you are embedding AI in it. So there are two ways to see it, but I think that will be the another topic to cover. And this will be your base topic. So product security, once you are aware, like what are the challenges that you face in product security, how you can make a successful product security roadmap or a program. Then when you see something is related to AI, now you have to figure out like, okay, is it using langchain, is it using open source tools, right? Is it some of the things that you are building your in-house? So which of these LLM models you are using, right? So lots of other things related to AI concept will come into the picture, but finally the product security that Malik is showing, it is like the foundational base for any of the product security, like, right? Yeah, I think Gopi is also asking the similar thing. This might be a relevant question to the session. How you think about the role of AI in application and product security? Yes, that's what I said, right? So 10 years back, the same thing was for blockchain or for cloud security, right? So everything is now into the cloud, and majority of the places you will see, even it's a pen testing role or application security or any role in a core engineering side, you will see that they are adding that you should have an idea of cloud, right? So I'm sure in coming like 3 to 5 years, there will be somewhere it will be written like good to have AI security knowledge, even if you are applying for pen test, product security, or for GRC or anything, right? So I would say that start learning now. I have also shared a few of the resources on AI ML security things.